Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our next edition of The Art of Personal Finance. February is Financial Aid Awareness Month, so what better a topic but providing you all some information and fun facts on financial aid. I'm here with a colleague of mine, Mason Jones. He's a certified financial planner and advisor with John G. Ullman and Associates. He will be doing most of the presenting today. Mason is one of our foremost experts in the education realm, and I will be playing MC today for you and giving your questions over to Mason to let him answer those. Before we get started, let's handle a few logistics. First, a disclaimer. The information discussed in this webinar is current as of the date noted and is for informational purposes only and does not intend to address the financial objectives, situation, or specific needs of any individual investor. Any information is for illustrative purposes only and is not intended to serve as investment, legal, or tax advice, since the availability and effectiveness of any strategy is dependent upon your individual facts and circumstances. Results will vary, and no suggestion is made about how any specific solution or strategy will perform in reality. So without further ado, Mason, I'll turn it over to you. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today, and let's learn a little bit about financial aid.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Thanks for passing the broom. I've got a couple quick housekeeping items I want to cover. First, I'm going to go over these quickly because we have a lot to go over and not a lot of time to go over. But first, here's an outline of my presentation, right? It's really broken down into 4 parts. First part we're going to go over is really a financial aid reality check. This is just really, my take, or it's kind of a 30,000-foot overview or check-in on where the country stands today in terms of higher education. Next, we'll roll over to what to expect from financial aid. My takeaway here would be really you're going to see, I'm going to show you that really there's a few free rides, all right? And hopefully at this point or by this point in the presentation, the juices inside your head are flowing, sparks are flying, and questions are beginning. You're asking yourself questions at this point. Next would be the managing expectations part of the presentation. This is really just the part that you control, and it starts with what I would say is an honest measurement of your current expectations. And then lastly, we'll bring it home to the 12 o'clock hour, lunchtime here, with the don't just save, invest part of things. Really, this part's going to tell us and show us in not so many words that, if you invest more efficiently, keywords efficiently, you will pay less in the long run, okay? And my objectives for today, right here, I want you to leave here today with more questions than answers. Yes, I said that. I want you to leave here with more questions than answers. This is not going to answer all your questions in life. This is just really to start. I want those juices flowing. I want those questions. You want yourself to start asking those questions to yourself. And really understand that college is one of life's most important and expensive investment goals. All right. Again, at worst, I want you to be aware of how you can spend less on getting a degree, or your child getting the degree, by reducing the expense for yourself, i.e. the parent, and possibly the amount both you and the student will need to borrow. All right. And at best, I want you to walk away and kind of have a plan. All right. So with that said, let's get rolling here on the financial aid reality check part of things. First, looking at the screen here, look, we all know higher education pays, right? A college diploma opens the door to a lifetime of higher earnings, right? Look at this. The green bar right here, this is high school graduates on average, right? They're earning about $40,000 a year compared to their counterparts who have a bachelor's degree. They're earning about $72,000 or $71,000 a year. And compare these guys in this bucket, these guys and girls, these people to folks that get a professional degree, they're earning even more, right? Kind of makes sense. But there's a degree of difference, right? Bachelor's degree holders, they earn enough extra in a single year, right, to recoup nearly 3 semesters of current public college costs. Okay, bachelor's degree holders earn about 1.8 million more over a lifetime than high school graduates, and then the people that get a professional degree, that makes sense with the rate we're going here. They're going to earn even more, about $2.8 million more. Okay, so everything on this slide, what's important to remember is over the past 50 years, earnings of young adults have increased right here, only for those with college degrees. Check. But what degrees, right? So what fields? What fields? What are we talking about here, Mason, Jason? And this chart is going to tell us. Well, this chart's telling us that the choice of a college major has a significant impact on a graduate's starting salary. Okay, so look at this. Computer science, kind of the number one paying degree field, $72,000 coming out of school with a bachelor's degree. Other end of the spectrum, education, our teachers who are underpaid. Yet we place our precious children in their hands. They're earning about $40,000 a year. All these fields combined on average coming out about $50,000 a year. Check this out. Salaries are on the rise, right? Average starting salaries for the class of 2018, right? They're about 13% higher than their counterparts from 5 years ago, the class of 2013. So if we just take that and extrapolate that over the years, if this trend continues, my kids, when they start school, when they graduate school, they're and get into the workforce, they'd be bringing home about, $86,000 a year. Again, looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, why don't the people in the previous slide here in the green bucket, basically people with just high school diplomas, why don't they go back to school and earn, twice or more money than they would otherwise? This is what I'm thinking to myself right now. Why don't they do that? Is it because they're lazy? Probably not. No. I think that's a stereotype. Is it because they're not smart enough? Nope. I don't think that's the case either. Jason, do you have any ideas on why it's not so easy, so to speak, for the people in the green bucket on the previous slide to not just go back to school and make more money?
Well, I have a couple of guesses, Mason, but given the field we're in and knowing what we're helping with clients on this subject area, from child's birth to child being off the payroll, I would have to say the number one reason is probably cost.
Well, I think you're right. I think that's a great answer, Jason. All right. And this chart here is illustrating the point that Jason just made, is cost. It's showing us the cost of attendance both today. So if your loved one was to start school today, what it would cost. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I'm over here. My kids would be somewhere over in here, this end of the spectrum. All right. So just again, today, on average, right, per year, purple is the public school, purple for public. On average, it costs about $22,000 a year in tuition, fees, room and board, compared to a private school at $215,000. Okay. I'm sorry, $215,000 would be the 4-year cost. So on average, it's about $50,000 per year. All right. These numbers over here are for the 4 years combined. Over here, $22,000 and $50,000. That's on the annual basis. Okay. So really, my takeaway with all this is just showing you this: is that the younger the child is, the more likely it's going to cost. Okay, Jason, your kids are right here, already in school, so to speak. I guess this is telling me that my kids, it's going to cost twice as much for them to go to school. So look, the first step towards meeting a college costs is knowing what they are. So that's why I'm showing you this right here. We know costs are high today, and they're likely will be even higher when your child attends college, thanks to annual inflation or the tuition inflation that is outpacing the overall cost of living. Okay. This chart here is really just showing you or comparing, how fast tuition has increased over the years. Over the years, meaning since 1930 or not 38, transposing things here, since 1983. So the past 38, 40 years or so. Comparing that to other common expenses. Okay, tuition is blowing everything else out of the water. All right. What's grown the least is or what's increased at the slowest rate is apparel, tuition. It's fastest behind that, medical care. All right. On average, tuition is increasing about 6.3% or so per year. But why? Why is that? Oh, there's really no one particular reason, I don't think. But there's a handful. I mean, a couple of reasons. I guess I come to my mind would be, colleges are spending more money to attract the best students. They're hiring more staff probably. Best students are going to want the best teachers, and then colleges they're also receiving at the same time, less financial support from states. Those are just some of the reasons why, costs are going up faster than everything else for college. So, cost is going up, but this chart here is telling us that basically, if you don't save enough for college, that you have no other choice to borrow, and that's where a lot of people end up today. Look at this right here. Average debt at graduation for the class of 2019. All right, parents, right? When their loved one graduates, if they graduate, parents are walking away with about $37,000 of debt. Students, on the other hand, about $30,000 of debt. And back in 2010, right here, student loan debt surpassed all other forms of debt, right? Except right here, except mortgages, for the first time in history. It's also telling me, look at this. This is great. This is pretty eye-popping. Parental debt has increased 38%, almost 40% since 2015.
So Mason, a question here, because student loans are in the news currently around forgiveness. As a matter of fact, I saw an article this morning about politicians going back and forth about the level. It's been talked about $10,000 of loan forgiveness, and this morning read an article how Biden is turning down potentially a $50,000 loan forgiveness. What's your opinion of that? Is it something that something we're going to see, and who might that be for?
Yeah, I think most certainly we're going to see something. At a minimum, probably $10,000, which is kind of what Biden has been alluding to all along here. I think some of the recent stuff that you may have read this morning, I know some things that I heard just the other night from the town hall. I think it was proposed by Chuck Schumer, and it might have been Elizabeth Warren. Either way, it doesn't matter. Their proposal was like up to $50,000 of student debt to be forgiven. So whether it's 10 or whether it's 50 or it's in between somewhere, it's going to help. I think it'll happen. It's something that the Democrats have been pushing for quite some time, and there's a need for it. Look, even if it's $10,000, just on the averages here, if it's $10,000, students walking away with $30,000 of debt, that's covering a third. That's reducing that by a third, right? And if it's 50, takes care of the whole thing. So my opinion is, I think it's going to happen. I don't know what the amounts are. I hope more is better. But is it? Because it's got to be paid for from someplace by somebody down the road. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, who do you think that, is it something that they're talking about benefiting the debt that you're mentioning here that parents are shouldering, or is this focused on the student only?
Yeah, from my understanding, it's focused on the student only.
Great, thank you.
But again, as talks evolve here, stuff's changing. It's pretty fluid. Who knows? Maybe in the end, they'll pass something that's probably a mix, but or it could be a mix. I shouldn't say probably. It could be a mix. But yes, either way, right now, it's my understanding it's primarily focused on the student. All right, so we're about to wrap up the reality check part of things here, but this chart here is really just showing, or is comparing, millennials with student debt to those without debt. Right. So we just talked about in the previous slide that people are coming out of college with more debt. Look at this. So, retirement savings here. The blue is students with debt. So students with debt have on average about $22,000 or $21,000 in retirement savings compared to their counterparts without student debt. They got about $40,000. So they got about twice as much, right? And then this is just going to get even bigger when you look at other assets, so not including retirement. So the net worth, students with debt, their net worth is only about $10,000 more than what the retirement savings is. So about 30 compared to their counterparts without the debt. You got 114,000 of a net worth at this point. And nearly 6 in 10 millennials don't have a retirement savings account. All I'm saying here is, I'm not telling us anything new, right? Debt is a roadblock to savings. I think we already knew that. We knew this. We also knew higher education pays, right? Meaning you pay for it, or it pays in the long run. We knew it was expensive, but we now know kind of some of the reasons why it's increasing and only will increase. And now we know debt's a roadblock to savings. So again, now that we're all on the same page here and up to speed from my reality check rant, it's time to take control and do your best to maximize your kid's outcome with some thoughtful planning, which starts right now by knowing what to expect from financial aid. Knowledge is power. All righty. So first, what to expect from financial aid. Well, before we even get to that point, let's just talk about, you got to get into college first before you get to the financial aid part of things. So this is where we're at. The bottom line is, getting into college, it's really become easier thanks to the Common Application. Just the process overall is easier to get in, but it's harder, but it's getting harder to become accepted or to get accepted because competition's higher. So look right here, application. So this is comparing two different periods, 2018, 1918 compared to 03 and 04, so a 5-year difference. Applications are up. 6 million back in 04 compared to 11 million in 19. This is applications. However, the admission rates are going in the other direction. Applications are up, but admission rates are going down. Why is that? It's, again, there's a combination of factors, but I would sum it up as really the first thing is higher education is a business. Okay, it's kind of got its own marketplace that abides somewhat by the basic principles we may or may not have learned in economics. All right, and the sooner we realize this, I believe, is the sooner we can start targeting schools that are most likely to provide more generous merit aid. Okay, but again, why are the application rates going up? Why? It's because a variety of things. I think students are more prepared now. That's just improvement in the overall college preparation process. They're applying all over the place because of the Common Application. It's just easier. Most of this all done online. So if that's, if rates are going up, but why is it going down still? why are the acceptance rates going down? Well, it's, trying to keep up, I guess, with any type of demand can be a challenge, right? And since college is a business, most have reduced their admission rates in the face of the large increase with student interest. So let me just translate that. I think it makes sense because, if colleges have a higher demand, right, more people are applying, more students are applying. If that's the case, colleges can be more selective on who they want to pick, who they're going to let in the doors. Okay, and this is also showing some of the other important factors that colleges are looking at, what they're weighing, what's less important. Less important is the teacher recommendation from high school, your science teacher writing the recommendation. All right. So let's assume you get into school, you've been accepted to wherever. This chart here is really kind of telling us what to expect overall from financial aid. To me, it's telling me kind of if I'm lucky, the grants and scholarships combined may cover a quarter or just a part of the cost wherever you go. So look at this, right? My kid gets accepted to any college USA. Chances are, they're going to receive a grant, right? 57% of families are receiving grants. But how much? Well, the average amount's about $5,700. Okay. How much will $5,700 get you? Well, it's going to cover, depends on where you go, but private school covers about 12% of the tuition cost. And it's similar for scholarships. Scholarships, you probably looks like you got a greater likelihood to receive a scholarship with a little bit more money, but only about $2,000 more. Again, you add these two things together, there's still a giant gap in funding for this. And I'm not telling you this because I'm a downer or I'm pessimistic. I don't have that view on life in general. I'm telling you this because I want your expectations here to align with the reality on the ground, so to speak. In other words, I don't want you to expect more free money from grants and scholarships than you're likely to receive. Okay, I'm just trying to hone in some expectations here. Again, these are just facts. I'm not making this stuff up. Facts aren't always pretty, right? Fewer than 2/3 of all students receive grants and scholarships, and this is scary. Less than 0.3% receive enough to cover the full ride. All right. Sorry, my laser pointer. Here we go. All right, next, what to expect from some aid. Let's take care of this kind of misnomer up front here, right? The facts about athletic scholarships. First off, I hope everybody's son, daughter here is one of these 2% down below. I hope that they're an athlete in school and they get the free ride. But the facts are only about 2% of high school athletes receive a scholarship to play sports. Okay, so even if they are one of these 2%, they're in volleyball, whatever sport they're playing, lacrosse, okay, they're going to get a scholarship. But even then, the scholarship isn't enough to cover it. Athletic scholarships usually just cover only a small portion of the cost, just for the select few that receive them. So again, I hope that is the case. And if they do receive something, right, and you have been planning, right, and what's the impact on your 529 plan if you receive a scholarship? You're good, right? If you receive a scholarship, you're worried about having excess money and left over in the 529. You got some options at the table here. You transfer the unused part of it over to another family member, or you can withdraw the amount equal to the scholarship without having to worry about paying the 10% penalty on the tax. or I should say the 10% federal penalty tax. Excuse me. You know, and if you're thinking, well, I mean, you're still going to pay tax on the other side of it, but you would have paid tax on that regardless if it was in a different type of an account, you know, your taxable brokerage account. All right, so, you know, now that I've set your expectations a little bit, I hope, on what to expect, now let's touch base on some of the common types of aid that are out there and that you're likely to see. I'll stop here. I think, Jason, am I wrong? I think one or both of your, you got some athletes, right, in your bloodline?
That is correct. I mean, both our kids were lucky enough to earn some scholarship money, but I would tell you that you're correct. It's not a great portion. So, you know, what we've watched or witnessed as parents over the years is parents put a lot of backing, financial or otherwise, behind children in sports, and almost seems to be to the point of hoping to earn some scholarship money for college. But it is, as you said, Mason, few and far between, you know, with only 2%, about 2% of high school students earning aid like that. Yep.
All right, so again, here's some of the basic types of aid out here, kind of a summary. You know, there's really three, I guess, official forms, right? A need-based, merit-based. Need-based is again, based on a financial need, right? So we're going to look at your financials overall. Merit's going to be based on your academic performance and some other stuff. And then there's some loans out there. Now, keep in mind, right? Grants and scholarships, this is free money, right? Free gifts that generally don't need to be repaid. Grants are on the grant side of things, they're typically need-based. Well, scholarships can be both, but they're typically merit-based loans. Well, loans, you know, we pay that back. So again, sources of aid, they come from all over the place, right? The federal government has some things on the menu for us to choose from, or they're on the menu. The states have some options. Colleges have options. Nonprofits and private organizations. So let's just take a little bit of a quick look here. So the federal government, you know, they offer different grants and scholarships, loans. There's also some tax credits and deductions. States, similar. They offer, you know, grants and scholarships. And keep in mind, right, just because you may not be eligible up here from the feds doesn't mean there's not something at play on the state side of the menu, right? So you may even be available, or some of these may be available if you're not eligible above for federal aid, right? Colleges themselves offer different various grants and scholarships. Same thing with nonprofits. And, you know, the banks loan people money. All right. So how do you even get to that point? Figure out what I'm eligible for? Well, you have to fill out an application, right? Some applications. There's really two types of applications out here, and this is what I mean by the common application. This is what I mean by it's just easier across the board for people to apply to numerous schools using the same application, so to speak, without having to do 20 different applications. So, you know, FAFSA, that stands for the free application for federal student aid. All right, and that's used to determine, you know, your eligibility for need-based and right here, need-based and institutional aid. Okay, well, what are they looking at? All sorts of things, right? They're looking at your taxable income, non-taxable income, you know, how much you have saved over the years, all sorts of stuff. All right. There's also some other adjustments that can be made, right? They're looking at the number of people in your household, what you're paying in taxes, things like that. Okay, pretty much no matter where you go, for the most part, you're going to see that this application here. You're going to have to file this in general. What you may have to file in addition to would be the CSS profile. Why? That's because some schools, it's college specific basically, and nearly 400 schools use this application in addition to the FAFSA. Okay, and really it's kind of the same stuff as this, only it's a little bit more intrusive, right? Because it's the same as over here, plus some additional stuff. Untaxed Social Security benefits, your home equity, rental income, losses, business. It's just more intrusive stuff that they want to know about your situation. Okay. So,
Mason,
yes.
a question on the financial aid applications. I'm sure there's a lot of people. There were two out there, unless they've been through this. What is the best way to find out? You said some schools require one, not the other, or both. What's the best way to find that out?
Oh, how to find that out? I mean, reach out to the school's financial aid office. They're going to know. These people are friendly. They're not out there to get you. They're going to tell you. Go to the website. But yeah, the school's financial aid office is a great resource for that.
Good. And I'll share a brief story. Speaking of my kids, that we're going through this now. They're sophomores in college, and remembering back to the days of when I would help my parents complete my financial aid form, to now paper versus technology. The FAFSA has gotten substantially easier, especially with the linking that you can do between your application and the IRS, which allows the FAFSA application to pull in the tax information from the IRS. It's something that we help clients with all the time, even with that ease, because there is still some confusion over information that does go in there. What counts as assets? What doesn't count as assets? What counts as income? What doesn't count as income? So even though it's gotten more efficient with applied technology, you do still really need to pay attention as to definitionally what you need to be entering in each of those forms.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. There's a lot of information there that needs to be accounted for. But technology has made it a lot easier. Just from my experience too, I do this all the time with clients. I help them, fill this out, and so you create an account online, and it really just provides a step-by-step walkthrough, right? What is assets? What to count? You hit the question mark. It really make sure you exclude here. Do not include, your house or whatnot. It's pretty user friendly, is what I'm trying to say. So, thank you for bringing that part of it up. So here we go. Now applying for aid, right? When do we do this? How do we do this? Well, I guess we already answered the how, right? We do it online through those applications, but when's the question? When? Well, you can file the free application for federal aid as early as October 1st, the year before classes begin, using income and tax information from the previous 2 years, or from the past 2 years. So here we go, right? Your loved one's going to start school, right? Enrolled for the 2021-22 school year, right? They're going to file the FASFA form as early as October 1st, the year before. What information are we going to use for that? For the income tax side of things, they're going to use information from the 2019 tax return. Okay. And students, for students to be considered for aid, the FAFSA must be filed every year in college based on income and tax information from 2 years prior. So this is something that is just not a one-time thing. You can do it and forget about it. You have to go in every year and update it, renew it, see where you stand. All right, withdrawals from parent-owned 529 plans are not considered income on this application. So again, I'll say it again. Withdrawals from parents-owned 529 plans are not considered income on this application. However, right, withdrawals from 529 plans owned by the grandparents or somebody else, right, are treated as income on the student side of the equation. That'll make more sense right here. All right, so this right here is basically the formula, right? Because all we're looking to do at the end of the day is try to figure out how much aid am I entitled to, or how much aid is my child entitled to? Will they get? Can they get? And in order to figure that out, you got to put stuff in, but you're going to spit out. You need to have this right here. It's called an EFC score. EFC is effective family contribution. All right. This number is not the amount that you will pay for school or the amount that you'll get in aid. Right. It's just a number used to calculate how much you may be able to get. Well, how do you even get to this number? Well, it starts over here. The equation's kind of got two different sides to it. It's got the parent side, it's got the student side. Students, or on the parent side, right? You know, we're looking at the same stuff. Income and assets. Add those two things up. And the same thing for the student, okay? But look at this. Income, right? Income is only, income accounts for about 22 to 47%, right? Has a lot more weight on this application than do what you saved over the years, okay? Compared to 5.64% of the assets. And students' income accounts for about 50%, and their assets about 20%, all right? My point in saying this is, you know, or the reason why I'm saying it is because it's a common myth out there that investing for college or the amount of money that you have saved over the years is going to hurt your chances overall, right, when it comes to getting financial aid. And I don't want that misnomer to stop you from making a smart decision, because that is not a fact, all right? The fact is family income counts much more than asset in this formula. You still don't believe me? Check this out. This is just really a chart drilling home my previous point made on the slide about savings, about how savings counts far less than income in calculating your EFC score. Check this out, right? On the left right here, this is the amount that the school would cost, right? So $50,000 per year, all right? Okay, and then here we have two different families. We got the Smiths and we got the Wilsons who live next door, okay? They both make the same amount of money, but the only difference between them, and their kids are going to the same school, right? Where tuition cost, or it costs $50,000 a year. Only difference is the Smiths have saved $200K. All right. The takeaway from this is, look, the Smiths are only expected. They've saved $200,000, but they're only expected to pay $10,000 more than the Wilsons, who save nothing today. Okay, so again, I know I'm repeating myself, but when a 529 plan is owned by the parents, it has much less impact on federal financial aid eligibility than the custodial accounts or other student-owned assets.
Now, Mason, on the last slide and this slide, you were talking about 529s and savings, and one question that we always have to talk through with our clients, as you're aware of, is grandparents, and should they be saving into a 529, and how does that impact a financial aid application? Can you cover that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just want to consider using those in the later years. Why? Because the withdrawals, if you use them in the later years, they wouldn't. Let me word it like this: if you use them up front, you use them first, the withdrawals from a grandparent's 529 is going to count as income for the student on the FAFSA. Okay, so grandma and grandpa's withdrawal, even though it's for your school, for the kid's school, that's going to count as income in this formula. And remember, income on the student side has a huge weighting in terms of spitting out the EFC score. Okay. So again, everybody's situation is different, but it's just something to consider, to be aware of. That if mom and dad, if you have a 529 and the grandparents have one too, you just want to take a closer look to see, you do this efficiently as far as who should withdraw what and when. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think you covered that well.
All right, thank you. This is just, how do you figure your EFC score? Well, life, we're busy, so just go online and you can use an online calculator to get an estimate, or you can use this chart right here. Check over here on the left-hand side, combined income, find your income. Up here, this is the amount of assets, excluding your primary residence and retirement accounts. All right, figure out where you stand. So here we go. The example, $150,000, you're bringing that in per year. You have $200K in assets. Oh, look, this looks just like the Smiths, which is their EFC score, right? 42,000. All right. What to expect from so again, there's different federal grant programs out there. This is free money that you want to make sure that you're aware of and that you're doing the right stuff to get what you may be eligible for. Pell Grants, these are generally awarded to only undergraduates in financial need, up to limits, $6,100. There's also the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. I would ask Jason to try to pronounce that for me with the acronym, but we're low on time, so I won't do that. Again, pay attention to the limits, $4,000. We need to pay attention to limits and, is it available to just undergraduates or graduates or both? Stuff like that, all right? My point is there's things out there. Loan programs, same thing. Same principles apply that I just mentioned before. Be aware of limits, right? So the limits right here per year. Only this one, I guess there's more stuff to look at, right? So here we got direct subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. Know the difference, right? Subsidized loans, okay, you're not going to be paying the interest, or the interest isn't charged while your loved one's in school. Whereas the unsubsidized loan, that is, the interest is accruing from the minute you take the loan out, okay? So that's the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized. Also, subsidized, right, only available to undergraduates. Unsubsidized can be available to undergraduates and graduates. Okay. Then we got some loan options as well.
Mason, a question on the loans. Talk about the subsidized and unsubsidized. And, questions that we get from clients are, if I'm offered subsidized loans, should I just automatically accept them? How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? I mean, I guess first off, every situation is different. So, just because it's on your plate, so to speak, doesn't mean it's the healthiest option for you to eat. So we got to see what's all on your plate. You have 529 plans we can use instead, right? So maybe you need it, maybe you don't. It's on your plate. You don't have to eat it necessarily. And if you do have to eat it, I would, you're going to want to make sure you choose right here. Pick the subsidized first, right? Because you're not interest is not being charged at the moment. It's being deferred. So, I recommend utilizing the subsidized first, but really the answer is it depends on, what resources, what's all on your plate? What can you choose from? What can you eat that's the healthiest first, I guess. And remember this, right? You can borrow for your education, but you can't borrow for retirement. Wrapping up this section here on what to expect from aid. Again, this is just another illustration here showing, not much, right? Even from college endowments and financial aid overall, right? People make gifts, the endowments invest in money. But at the end of the day, guys, it's not enough to cover a typical family's costs, is what I'm getting at. Okay, so we should start planning. We need to start planning. And if you didn't, there's other sources out there to try to fund stuff with. All these combined, they're on that plate, so to speak, but they wouldn't be the healthiest options. The healthiest options, I would consider, we want to talk about a 529. Definitely a better option here. So look, now that you have low expectations on financial aid, what should you do? Well, two things. Now we got to manage in your expectations. What do I mean by that? We're going to get to that in the next slide. And second, we need to just not save, but you have to invest, and not just invest efficiently. All righty.
And Mason, before you go there, I just want to chime in on one thing from that prior slide, with other sources of college funding.
Sure.
Again, another anecdotal point to make for my children is there are many scholarships and grants out there that are managed by local community foundations and so on that go unfunded every year. And it comes down to an application, maybe an essay or something like that, having a certain GPA in high school. We encouraged our kids, and they were able to capture some additional monies through that exercise. One of our kids' very, very closest friends, I think she came up with about an extra $10,000 just applying for these scholarships and putting the time in. So I'd encourage parents to encourage their students to track these down with local community foundations is a great place to start. And that's going to be another source of financial aid, at least in the in the first year, and maybe on the out years, depending on the scholarship or grant rules.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that point. I mean, every little bit helps, and the help isn't going to come find you. We have to find the help. Okay. So back to managing expectations. Okay. What I mean by this is, just what kind of promises are you making to yourself or have you made to your kids on how much you want to pay for their education, or can you pay, right? And I mentioned this earlier. Remember, you can borrow for education or you can borrow for college, but you can't borrow for retirement, right? So, I mean, roughly 9 in 10 parents want to pay at least half of the cost of college, okay? So if that's the case, and I'm one of those, my kids are over here, newborn to 3. I want to pay half right here. I have to start saving about $350 a month per month up until they start school. All right. And again, that's just assuming they, for the first 4 years on average, and so that you got to ask the question: are 4 years enough? 5.1 years is the average time to complete a bachelor's degree. This is similar lines. This is just checking in to see, where you stand today. If you have started saving, so look, using this example, you find your child's age over here on the left-hand column, the blue column. Up top is the amount that you want you plan on providing. All right, so again, you plan to pay 75% of public costs. Your kid's 9 years old, 75%. You should have probably about $65,000 or so invested today. All right, and if you don't, well, we should probably take a closer look at things. This is where those juices are flowing in your head and sparks are flying. Questions, you're asking yourself questions. What's going on? Do I have enough? Because you can you can make changes, right? You can start or increase monthly investments, and take your tax refund bonuses. There's all sorts of stuff that we could consider to do. And consider this too, right? How can I forget this? This is kind of what I would call, maybe an unofficial or an alternative form of financial aid. Remember before I said, well, there's three official, or there's three types. Well, I think maybe there's some alternative ones that really are, but we're not viewing them as maybe we should. The community college option. Why? Look, if you go to a community college, the first 2 years, you can, and then you transfer over to the 4 years to finish the other two, you can save about 40%. This is a huge savings. So this is an example right here. Jason, your kids decided to go to a 4-year school. Your daughter decided to not go to a community college. So right here, it costs you $95,000 to pay for her 4-year degree. Meanwhile, your son decided to go to a community college first for the first 2 years, and then go on to get his bachelor's someplace else. It costs $60,000, right? Huge difference in savings. Huge difference.
I will tell you, Mason, that I took that option as a kid, as I did 2 years at Corning Community College and then moved on to a 4-year school. And I agree, that was from a financial standpoint, that was a great option.
Yeah, it's definitely an affordable first step. I'm a product too of Corning Community College. I'm a product of the first 2 years. I got ahead of myself. So look, next, this is telling us right here, families that are saving out there for school. This isn't savings overall. This is savings for school. Family savings for school. Where's the money at? Well, they're not saving it the right way. The bulk of it, 50%, is in cash, checkings account, savings account, CDs. Okay, if that's the case, are they doing the right thing? Well, no, they're not, because look at this chart. This is telling us why. If school is increasing, the cost of school is increasing about 6% per year, and the bulk of assets are in cash, so to speak, and that's on average, for the past 20 years, returned 4%. That's underperforming. Okay, so you have to have a different plan, right? You have a 529 plan, balanced approach up top. And this right here, guys, this is showing us. Well, this isn't showing. This is screaming at me. If you have the option, if you have a 529 and you have the resources to make a lump sum, do it. If not, make the annual contributions. Why? Because there's a huge savings involved between that and paying out of pocket. This chart here, I'm not going to spend much time on it. It's just telling us, the power of compounding, right? Start saving sooner, all right? Get the plan in place now, not yesterday. Not tomorrow, sorry. And right here, this is another chart that's really bringing home the point, okay? Between a taxable account. So again, we're assuming someone's saving here, but they're saving between a taxable account, so brokerage account, and comparing that to a 529. All right. Well, a taxable account is going to, it's taxable, so it's going to eat away at your earnings and whatnot. Okay, overall. Whereas 529, that money's going to come out, it's going to grow, should grow, tax free. Okay, distributions, as long as they're qualified, are tax free. Right? Nope. So it's coming out tax free. Hence the difference. A $58,000 difference between the two different types of savings. This is what I mean by invest efficiently. And heck, view this as another form of financial aid, in my opinion, right? That we control, that you control. And lastly, guys, this is comparing, two people, right? One person has started saving over the years, okay? Other one didn't. And right here, school cost $117,000. Okay, so if that's the case, I'm starting to save. $1,000. I put $1,000 into the 529 up front with some monthly contributions. Overall contributions over 18 years are $65,000. Okay, I got some earnings in there. That'll bring me home to 117. Compared to if I didn't do anything, I took a loan out for 117. Now I'm really paying 164 because of you're paying interest. Okay, what does this mean? It means you're paying $100,000 less out of pocket with a 529. Okay, I've touched on a lot of stuff today. I think some of the most important takeaways would be for everybody to understand that, don't expect much from financial aid. Know the process. Know that you're in control. And consider these alternate forms, right? I know Jason mentioned before he was a product of community college, which I'm saying is maybe another unofficial or alternate form of financial aid. That's one. Creating a 529, investing wisely, smartly is another form, so to speak, because of the tax advantages offered by the federal and some states. And maybe there's three. Three would be I'm another product of this. 4 years in the service, 4 years in the Marine Corps. It wasn't free, right? I had to earn it. But that's another approach, right? Not everybody knows what they want to do right when they get out of high school. I'm an example of that. So didn't take me long afterwards to figure it out, but meaning I didn't want to do 20 years in the Marine Corps, but that has so many good benefits as well to it. So there's other things out there, and we got to put them all on the table. I went fast. Any questions, feel free to email Jason or myself.
Yeah, thank you. That was very well done and some great perspectives, not just on financial aid. Sometimes we see these things out there where they focus just on the application itself, and you really gave a really broad perspective of that. As Mason said, we'll wrap this up here. If you have any further questions, please reach out to either of us. You can reach out through the website, the Contact Us feature on jgua.com, or jonesm@jgua.com, nickersonj@jgua.com. Where else can you find us? We do utilize the various social networks, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on. Please check us out for other content that you have. Additionally, we do have a podcast that you can listen to through our website or your favorite podcast app. As a matter of fact, one of our episodes was with our very own Shirley Nelson, talked about education planning, so some further information there. Tune in again. Find the podcasts out there, a lot of great episodes. We'll be coming back to you with our monthly webinar again, the Art of Personal Finance, and it will be on the subtleties of buying or leasing a car, which is very timely given the month of March. Our dealerships ramp up the advertising around tax refunds. Before you do anything with that, why don't you listen in? Mason will be hosting that one with our colleague, Alex Ognanovsky, who is our in-house car pro. He has a great deal of knowledge in that area. So thank you all again.